Have you found yourself stuck? Perhaps indecisive? As one may say, not good when it comes to Souls games. Maybe the issue isn't you, but someone in particular who you've been hounding to play Elden Ring for the past year. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not too late, and that it doesn't take much to actually enjoy this game by yourself. So you saw the title, let's cut the bullshit. If you already understand how any of these listed topics work, or want to skip around, here are all the timestamps below, but if you choose to watch through everything, I'd greatly appreciate it. Any further resources will be provided in the description. Here is a source showing all the UI and visual markers. It explains things more than I need to, but we will cover some specifics later. The starting classes are the Vagabond, Warrior, Hero, Bandit, Astrologer, Prophet, Samurai, Prisoner, Confessor, and Wretch. Each starter has stats, levels, and items that can make the beginning of the game easier or more difficult for you. For new players, I recommend either the Astrologer class or the Samurai class, because the Astrologer gives you the ability to use some magic immediately, making the beginning easy mode, and the Samurai class not only comes with the perfect starter weapons such as a shield, a longbow, and a katana, but it also looks hot. Those are starter classes, so now let's get into some starter builds. There are easily over a dozen build combinations we can play with, but covering everything is boring and tedious, so I will provide an additional resource or two in the description if you're interested. Ignoring what all the Soulsborne gatekeepers say, the best route for just getting into Elden Ring are intelligence dex builds, which are basically magic focused and include the infamous Moonveil. Yes, it has been nerfed, but it's still incredibly easy to use in just one example. This path means you can focus on weapons that allow you to hit faster, keep distance when needed, and react when necessary. Some of the best weapons are not the easiest to obtain right away, and neither are some of the other staffs or spells in this category, but you'll be able to find suitable weapons early on to utilize this path. What I personally recommend though is initially focusing on leveling up your vigor and endurance, health and stamina, so that way while you're improving your confidence when approaching enemies, you will be able to last longer in said fights. Once you get your vigor and endurance a decent amount, then begin to cycle with upgrading your dexterity, intelligence, and strength, based on the weapons and abilities you are currently using or want to use. The reason I recommend these three is because dexterity includes several fun, easier to use weapons such as katanas. Intelligence scales with great spells, like the Stars of Ruin, Loretta's Mastery, or Comet Azure, and strength includes weapons such as the Star Scourge Greatsword, which is excellent for farming later in the game, and the Rotten Great Axe, which is a personal favorite. These are just a few examples to keep in mind. Focusing on a specific build will require specific upgrades, but you are not limited to a single build, nor do you have to stay that way the entire game, which can be done by completing this area, getting this item, and then talking to the Hot Queen. Now that the introduction is out of the way, let's cover some more in-depth topics. Noobs, please pull out a pencil and paper. For this section, I will be covering items, your inventory, and crafting very briefly. Up here you have your right and left armament weapon selection, your bolt and arrow equipping area, your armor, talismans, and quick items. Talismans give you certain buffs such as raising MP, HP, etc. You can equip 4 talismans at a time, and how you use them is completely up to you, but I encourage you to use combinations that will help you with whatever you may be struggling with at the time. Some important items are the Flask of Wonders Physique, Starlight Shards, and Rune Arcs. Boluses are used to alleviate build-up status effects like Scarlet Rot or Blood Loss, while Dried Liver applies a higher immunity against status effects. The rest we don't need to cover because you can read. Item crafting is rather simple. You gather materials around the world and use them to craft new items. Wow, what a concept. Cracked pots, however, are permanent items that are used to craft pots with status effects that can be thrown at enemies. The number you can craft is dependent on how many you found, and each time you use one, you open another available for crafting. Got it? At a Site of Grace, you can memorize spells, but each spell takes up memory slots, which can be expanded with memory stones. Memory stones are found hidden throughout the game. Mixing Wondrous Physique will allow you to combine 2 status effects into a temporary potion. The most commonly used mix is the Magic Shrouding Cracked tier with the Ceruleum Hidden tier, because it will not only boost your magic attacks, but it will give you unlimited FP for 10 seconds. This is how people use the Comet Azure to one-shot bosses, which was a very common cheese when the game first came out. Great Runes are another status effect that you can keep equipped in game, which are activated with Rune Arcs, and are found at the top of Divine Towers isolated in every region. Don't be a hoarder like me, but also don't waste all of your Rune Arcs at once. When we begin our journey, you're supposed to boldly attack this shithead and die. If you kill him, however, you will get some goodies. You do not need to restart and try over and over again to try to get said goodies, however, because you can whoop his ass later in the game by going here and here with this item, which you can get from here. You're welcome. After the cutscene following your death with the second hottest encounter in the game, you will awaken with flasks of Crimson Tears, which are used to regain HP, and a flask of Cerulean Tears, which are used to restore MP. These can be allocated at any Site of Grace to either give you more health or more MP flasks flask based on what you currently need more at the time. Going to a grace will also refill all your flasks, but it will also reset any mobs you have killed, so choose wisely. Proceed towards Glowy Boy, follow his instructions, and jump to your death. Light your first grace, and get ready to learn some fighting mechanics. To begin, you got your slash, bash, jump slash, jump bash, ash, guard crash, stash, two-hand slash and two-hand bash. Power stance slash requires dual wielding two weapons in the same class. Jumping power stance smack, running slash, running bash, lunge stab, crouch boop, and haunts. If you're a magic user, you have your wand, your magic, your patronus, and your crest. If you're a melee they them, you have options for all forms of abuse. The game doesn't really teach you how to use magic, so I will cover that briefly along with weapon scaling. Your staff allows certain magic, and your seals allow for others. If you don't choose the astrologer starting class, you will need to travel here in Caelid to get the meteorite staff, and your first seal can be found here. Some staffs and some seals have specific scaling effects, but all of them, including weapons, scale to a certain degree based on the stats listed on them here. If you want more in-depth info on this, I'll leave a link in the description. But all you need to know is builds center around scaling with certain items you like using, and that's exactly why I recommend strength, dex, and intelligence, because those scale with several phenomenal items that work well together. Before fully exploring, make sure you complete these steps. Get trolled. Travel to and buy this from Santa. Collect these flowers anytime you see them. They're used for co-op. Kick some ass for runes. Chill at Graces until Bay offers you a ride, so that you can level up and use haunts.
Follow this quick tutorial on how to get the Flask of Wondrous Physic. I was too lazy to record more voiceover.
Unlock more graces to fix trust issues. Travel to Oval Office. Talk to your fellow maidenless. Go back to the Church of Ella and get greeted by the one and only and receive spirit summons from her. This will lead us to our next section. Once you complete these steps, you will be able to use summons, which are found around the world from the Hidden Valley Turdbugs. They are temporary companions to help you in battle. You can only use summons when this indicator is on the screen, but of course you need to find some first. Depending on which ones you use, your life may be put on easy mode. You can level up summons by talking to Roderica here, getting the jellyfish ashes, and then meeting her at the round table hold. Exhaust her dialogue, ask Hugh about her, and then encourage her to pursue her gift. Then go back to him again and ask him to look after her. Next time you come to the round table, she'll be waiting for you near him on the floor, and then you will be able to level up your summons. The items used for leveling up summons are found in dungeons, which are hidden all over the map. For the sake of not boring you to death, I'm going to speedrun leveling up armaments. Armaments, which include weapons, staffs, and incantations, can be leveled up using smithing stones. Regular armaments can be upgraded to plus 25 using regular smithing stones, and special ones are upgraded with somber smithing stones. Normal armaments can have their affinities changed with whetstone knives and wet blades, but special armaments cannot have their affinities changed. Normal weapons can also be equipped with Ashes of War, which are basically special abilities to make weapons more useful. Ashes of War can be duplicated so that you can use the same ash on different weapons as well. Now when you enter the world of Narnia, as we covered earlier, you should go to this church, light this grace, and then travel into the nearby woods for some certified ass whooping. Once you exit these woods, you will be able to apply the fighting mechanics you learned in 2. Whether you've cleared this area or not, certain principles can be applied to literally any new area you come across in any Soulsborne game, and those principles are divide and conquer. Most areas generally have 3 types of enemies, but results may vary. First, you have your cannon fodder, then your big daddies, and finally, your really big daddies. You can either kill them all at once or be slow and methodical, but what people fail to realize is you don't even have to kill every encounter to begin with, though at times there may be benefits to doing so. I know, shocking, right? In general, a little bit of practice with Torrent, if Torrent isn't restricted, or simple on-foot dodging mechanics will help you navigate safely around most enemies. And you can freely loot most items quickly and with relative ease. You can even take a stealthy approach, pick out some enemies, and then get out before mom realizes you're awake after bedtime. But if you want to get to clapping bosses, you need to fight. You need practice. So let's apply this in the easiest way possible. When you enter a new area, watch out for horn boys and big boys. Horn boys you generally want to kill as soon as they are close to you, and big boys usually save for last, though approaches may vary. Cannon fodder can be clapped at your leisure, but do not allow yourself to get surrounded by any mob of enemies in this game. Take note of your surroundings and be adaptive based on who or what you may be facing. Pick off enemies little by little, take out multiple if you learn their attack pattern and feel confident, or if you don't feel like getting close, then there's nothing wrong with including ranged attacks as well. If you want to use spells or incantations and crush everyone's skull, that is fine too, but keep in mind you have to learn how to use melee weapons to survive. It goes without saying for most players, but for those who are especially new to Souls-like games, you need to get used to dying. A lot. The reason for this is because the game isn't designed to be impossible, it's designed to be learned. You need to learn how not to die, and to do that, you have to die less and less. For example, if you approach one of these giant bears and are dumb enough to aggro it, you will die very quickly. But if you stick close to it, usually dodging its attacks to its sides or behind it, while hitting it in each opening, you can take it down. Get greedy and you'll die. Take your time. If you come across a murder eagle, you need to dodge into it and attack it before it attacks you again. These are two annoying examples, but the application is to learn and react, not just attack. Always assume a mindless attack will lead to your death. In order to truly enjoy Elden Ring, you should play it alone. This is how you will truly overcome the odds and feel the satisfaction that comes with doing what seems impossible. And that is the primary point of this video. I want you to experience this like millions already have and truly enjoy the game. However, sometimes, especially in the beginning, you are so ash that you need a little push, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying the game with a friend as well. That's where summons come into play. And no, I don't just mean these. Summons can be Casper, friends, or volunteers and friends. If you need help, depending on whether or not you're antisocial, go here, set a password here and here, have your friend do the same, whoever needs a summon uses this thingy thing, and whoever's being summoned uses this thingy. Craft this shit for the thing with the flower found everywhere, and boom, you have help. Ta-da! You're not alone. A major criticism of Elden Ring, or Souls games in general, is that side quests and quests do not have indicators of progress or completion. Shut the fuck. Every vet knows that you keep track of it yourself, and we have all grown to appreciate the bullshit. Here are some actual notes I've written to help myself out. Yes, these are real. Side quests can be affected based off decisions you make and when you make them, and this is also why NPCs should almost never be killed. And if you messed up an interaction, the Church of Vows can usually sort shit out. For instance, if you accidentally attack an NPC and they become hostile, flee the scene and do this. If you fuck up a side quest by starting it too late, making a bad decision, or doing things in the wrong order, there are actually ways for most side quests to be completed so long as certain characters are still alive at the right times. This is very complicated, so I would have to explain it more in depth in another video, which won't happen, let's be honest. But in general, if you don't want to mess things up, don't be afraid to follow tutorials, especially if you want certain items like the best damn weapon in the game. The general rule of thumb is if you can forget it, write it down. If you want to come back to it sometime later, mark it on your map. Take your time. With everything previously mentioned, you should be able to gradually get more comfortable exploring the world. Play however you want. That being said, if you need to level up and you're having a hard time, the best mob I encourage you to fight early on are these murder midgets, because they force you to attack cautiously while also rewarding you handsomely. They are easily the best farm for early on in the game. To get there, travel to this teleport, travel down to this site of grace, spend all of your runes, get your weapon of choice, and follow these steps. Every time you approach these charbroiled smurfs, you will do your best to crouch run behind them, hold your light attack to get a visceral attack, stop briefly, charge your heavy, wait until your attack is over, and then going in for a finisher. If one of your viscerals fail, you can either give a few slashes and get back, or fall back and approach cautiously. Read the situation and react as best as you can, because at a low level, these can easily one-shot you with any attack. Look, if you want to rune farm and make your life easier, then rune farm. The best rune farm comes from finishing the maidenless missions, ignoring shithead's warning, riding torrent to the site of grace, and then using as many arrows as possible to get murder birdo to commit unaliving. If you beat Radon, you can use the swords to kill your neighbors for even more XP as well. Gatekeepers will complain about this, but I say, who gives a fuck? The only thing I'd actually encourage is to use the runes you get wisely when leveling up and buying items, and to not get too overpowered too fast, because it can affect your enjoyment of the game. Sometimes, but that would require a lot of farming. With the previous information, I showed you how to take advantage of mobs' weaknesses in order to overcome them. This is why you need to die a lot, so that you can get used to each mob, find their weaknesses, and then use it against them cautiously. This is the exact logic that is used for fighting bosses, which we will cover in the next section. Every boss needs patience to take down, with no two usually requiring the same method. Some are repeated with different variations, but regardless of who you're fighting, you have to remember that 1. Not all attacks are effective against every boss, and 2. Don't be afraid to die so that you can learn how to effectively take them down. In the beginning of the game, there is a perfect starter boss for players trying to get used to game mechanics, which is not far from where you first meet Mom Mirani. Go through the forest to this cave, ignore the doggos, and go here to this fog wall, where you will be greeted by the beastman of Far Missoula. When you first encounter him, lock on him and dance around him. What we're trying to do is learn his moveset and look for openings. So let's break it down piece by piece. The first attack you want to look out for is charging heavy attacks. When he's doing this, the last thing you want to do is stay within this distance. He also has a combination which includes 6 separate ways to cut you in half. Another is a lunge followed by a swing. At this point, I have learned his 6-piece combo, and I just discovered his 4-piece combo, but I'm not used to his lunge and swing. By keeping too much distance and panicking, his extremely easy to recharge attack got me. In the next attempt, I focus on just dodging him and nailing his attack pattern. I could tell his 4-piece was happening, so I determined an opening was possible if I dodged correctly. Success! After I hit him, he freaked out and showed me a 2-piece combo, which occurs commonly after getting a hit on him. At this point, it it seems like we can maneuver confidently. But keep in mind, it is important to not lunge towards an enemy's attack. So even if you technically would have been hit, so long as you aren't landing within the attack direction, you will more often than not be okay. If you notice here, even though I dodged at a decent time, because I dodged where his attack landed, it didn't work. So you have to dodge to his right after the 4-piece, 6-piece to the left, lunge attack to the left, 2-piece combo, jump back, charge attack, jump back, timed properly. At this point, even though I have no flasks and minimum health, I can fight him confidently. Using everything I said, watch how patient and methodical I become, but the second I lose focus, I die. The very next fight is the winning one, so I will show you exactly how I approached him and exactly how I won. Keep in mind that this is just one example of one boss, but the way in which you approach bosses is the same for all of them, using tactics that work against them specifically. With all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, have questions, or want me to cover anything specific, be sure to let me know in the comments below and subscribe for more. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.